It's comp season right here on Locked On NFL Draft. Comp season, yeah, you'll find out next right here. Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We welcome you all into Locked On NFL Draft with your three draft gurus, the three best looking dudes you're ever going to find. A couple of smart dudes, and, well, I'm just trying to keep it all together right here. You see my man, former NFL, AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker, right there. And you also see Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics, at Ryan Tracy NFL, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter, if Twitter still exists by the end of the show. And I am John Harris, football analyst, sideline reporter for the Houston Texans, and also owner-operator of footballtakeover.com. That's the first one, guys. Is Twitter going to exist a month from now? Yes or no?
That's a great question. I don't know. With the way Twitter's reacting to the news of Elon Musk taking over and some of the changes, that is a great question. I hope it's around because a lot of my interaction is on there.
Yeah, and it's always fun to interact with the non-idiots, if that makes a sense, if that makes any sense.
I always try to be one of those.
Yeah, try to be a non-idiot. I think that was advice that my dad gave me a long time ago. Don't suck and try to be a non-idiot. And a reminder, today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft is presented by Prize Picks, and it's a crossover Thursday. Prize Picks is so much fun. It's easy to play. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks, and we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $200 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. All right, I mentioned comp season. What exactly am I getting at here? Well, I think when we get to draft season, sometimes it's easier for a lot of people if they haven't seen a particular player and they follow an NFL team. Like I'm a fan of the Detroit Lions. Tell me about Aiden Hutchinson. I haven't seen him. Well, tell me what about him. And you think of Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know. A lot of people comped him to, J.J. Watt, which I didn't really buy, but you get the point. You try and create a visual for a player and think, oh, I'm getting this guy. So you create a comp to that particular player. Now, where it gets tough when you're creating comps is that when you mention a player, everybody automatically goes, oh, man, that guy's not going to be that guy. That guy's a 12-time Pro Bowler and a Hall of Famer. It's stylistically, the way a guy looks, the way a guy plays, right. What are some of the similarities and elite traits and all that kind of stuff. So those things can be not problematic, but for some people it can be they can't see it or they don't get it. But a comp is just that. It's just stylistically, who does this player remind you of? And I thought, let's do a few comps here tonight, and let's start with the number one overall prospect on the Harris 100 board is Will Anderson Jr. from out of Alabama. He's in his third year, 6'4", 243, plays outside backer. If you haven't seen Alabama play, then the best comp I can use, and this is the one I came up with, and Eric, I'll give you first shot at it. First step, blazing fast. He beats light, quick tackles with speed. He's the alpha in a program. He's always around the ball. He finds the quarterback and finishes. My comp to Will Anderson Jr. was Steelers Pro Bowl edge T.J. Watt. Eric, how did I do with my comp?
Not bad. And the name, I don't know why this even came up, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't even going to know who this guy is. Obviously, with me following the 49ers very closely for years growing up, huge fan of the 49ers, I'm going to remember this guy. But they used to have this linebacker by the name of Julian Peterson.
Oh, yes,
and
good
he
one.
was this really long outside guy. The 49ers used him more as a off-ball linebacker as opposed to a pass rusher. But then he went to Seattle and had his best years as a pass rusher, generating a ton of sacks for them. And I see a lot of Will Anderson in them. Just freak athlete, long, able to move around in space, but also can get after the quarterback and clearly big time disruptor. That's exactly what Will Anderson is. So for those of you who either too young and don't remember Julian Peterson, or some of you that do, and you just need a little flashback, go probably search up Julian Peterson on YouTube and a little bit more so of his Seattle Seahawks days and what that looked like. Definitely a guy who could really get after the quarterback.
No doubt. Ryan, Tracy, what do you think about the TJ Watt comp for Will Anderson Jr. and Julian Peterson, if you remember him, obviously you being very young and all?
Oh, that's kind of you, John. Yes, Julian was my stepson. There's a comparison to Watt for sure. I remember Watt in college, though, feeling that he was very much the OLB type, the thin, played with good pad level control. Like, he was actually really dynamic in how he ducked under pass rush. The guy that comes to mind for Will Anderson for me is a college Khalil Mack. Like, I feel that there's more power there. I feel like there's more V to his body shape with that long arm. I think that he uses that well. Like, I see the comparison there. The lower body power reminds me a little bit more of Mack than Watt. But I think the nice thing about it is the hand usage. And I do think that both of them have come away. I think Will Anderson's a little ahead of where TJ Watt was when he was coming out.
Yeah, I mean, Khalil Mack was, I don't want to say raw coming out of Buffalo, but God dang. I remember he created, I think it was 16 or 18 forced fumbles his last year at Buffalo. And to do that, you just have to have a knack for it.
Yeah.
You have to have a knack for it. And some guys have it and some guys don't. And Khalil Mack absolutely had it. I think both of those are very, very good comps for Will Anderson Jr. All right. What's my comp for Bryce Young? See what the guys have to say about the Hall of Famer that I comped to Bryce Young. And I did this back in May, 6 to 8 weeks before somebody else did it. So I'm laying claim to it. So who did Bryce Young's comp turn out to be? Well, we'll tell you next. But I want to talk about jewelry. I want to talk about rings and things. I want to talk about Kirk Cousins wearing jewelry all the time. Well, if you have jewelry that you want to wear, or you have jewelry that you want to get for a significant other, you want to make your celebrations even more memorable, then you got to go to BlueNile.com. That's blue like the color, Nile like the river. BlueNile.com, the original online jeweler. They offer the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. They've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. And I'll ask you right now, do you know cut clarity, any of that about it? No, you don't know anything. So let the expert jewelers at Blue Nile do it for you. And oh, by the way, they are on hand 24/7. So 2 a.m. and you get this thought, oh man, I need to get something. Blue Nile is there ready for your thoughts. Available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Shop stress-free, easy for me to say, with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging, because you don't want him or her to find out, oh my gosh, my honey got me something from Blue Nile. You don't want that. You want to have the secret and the surprise, right? Well, make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com. BLUE, like the color, Nile, Nile, like the river. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON. I would like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most, the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Okay, Bryce Young. I came up with this back in May. I was very, very proud of this. I felt very confident in the comp that I had come up with for Bryce Young. I watched this guy up close in a game in 2019, and I felt like I was watching Bryce Young and vice versa. Then about a month to 6 weeks later, Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com, my buddy came out with the same comp. So I felt validated, but also ticked off because, well, I came up with it first. You know, like a 3-year-old argument.
Clearly, he reads your tweets and your articles.
Yes.
I mean,
right.
There's no other way around it.
Right. That's the way I think about it. Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Brees. Bryce Young comp, Ryan Tracy. Your thoughts, Bryce Young comp to Drew Brees. And again, I'll repeat and reiterate what I said earlier. And that is, it's not going to be a perfect match, but you're just trying to find some of the same traits, some of the same characteristics, playing style, stylistically. I feel like I see that in Drew Brees. Ryan Tracy, your thoughts? How close did I get Drew Brees comped to Bryce Young?
I find that interesting. That had not occurred to me personally because I didn't watch a lot of Bryce until last season. Maybe I missed something earlier that makes that impression because I can see in terms of pocket presence and awareness, I can see that pretty literally about the way that he's able to take short, stabby steps, move around that pocket, deliver the ball. I actually drift to outside the pocket. What does he look like when he's on the roll? What does his delivery look like? And I come back to two things. One with that kind of longer, elongated delivery that Randall Cunningham used to throw with. Sometimes I see that. And more naturally right now, I actually see a lot of Jalen Hurts, the way that he moves and delivers the ball on the run. So that's where my mind went to, but I won't argue with you with the Brees thing.
Eric Crocker, how close did I get Drew Brees to Bryce Young?
I think a lot closer than people will initially think. And again, showing my age a little bit here, 35 years old, going back to young Drew Brees.
Oh, yeah,
he
go
was
ahead,
a guy.
old guy. Yeah, go ahead, old guy.
Drew Brees was a guy when he came out of Purdue who moved around a lot more than that statue that we saw over the last couple of years of his career. He could move around. You talked about the arm strength. Not a big arm, but super efficient, super accurate, still can make throws to all levels of the field. And you see a lot of Drew Brees and Bryce Young's game in that way. So, yeah, I definitely won't argue with you there. I've kind of thrown out the name skinny Russell Wilson, but I actually like young Drew Brees a lot more. And hate to burst your bubble, but I did talk to my guy Tony Pauline, and he came up with the same comp. He said Drew Brees as well. So they're on to you, man. But listen, they heard it here first on Locked On NFL Draft from our guy John Harris.
There you go. I like it. And I like Tony Pauline. Tony Pauline's a good dude, so I'm good with that. All right, let's stay with another quarterback. Because this one took a little bit, and it's funny with comps. Sometimes you struggle with them, and then all of a sudden you see something, you're like, oh, whoa, that's it. That's it. I got it. C.J. Stroud, Ohio State. Now you watch. I'll promise you. I bet you $1. Some idiot is going to comp C.J. Stroud to Dwayne Haskins. And as soon as you see that, you write that person off because it's not even close. Here's who I came up with for C.J. Stroud. And it's a former Ohio State quarterback. It's Joe Burrow from the Bengals. And this is when it hit me. A couple things about watching. It was actually watching Joe that made me think of it. Because a couple of things. Number one, I think they have good arms. I don't think they have Josh Allen arms. When they scramble, and they will, I should say, when they get out of the pocket, they're looking to throw, both of them. But if they need to tuck and run, they can tuck and run and do it effectively. But the biggest thing that stood out for me about C.J. Stroud and why I comped him to Joe Burrow is the ball placement. I feel like his ball placement where he puts – and I don't think he's been as good this year as he was last year, but I felt like C.J. Stroud was doing some advanced things. He would make a throw, and he would throw Jackson Smith and Jigba away from a closing corner like Joe Burrow used to do with Justin Jefferson. I would see those things and go, man, that's really similar. And when it hit me with Joe Burrow and C.J. Stroud, I was like, yeah, because it was one of the last ones I had to try and figure out from my Harris 100. I went C.J. Stroud with Joe Burrow. Eric Crocker, am I crazy? How's that comp of Stroud to Burrow?
If we're talking about deep ball placement, especially last year, especially against Utah,
yes,
I will give you a Joe Burrow comp.
Yep.
But I think he's been far too inconsistent as a passer, whether it's deep balls or short to intermediate passes. Matter of fact, kind of all over the place. Now, from an athletic standpoint, I'd say they pretty much marry each other, where Joe Burrow is not someone who's going to really take over a game with his legs, but definitely can utilize his legs to make plays. I think that's going to be more of C.J. Stroud's game as well. I think a lot of people look at him and probably want him to utilize his legs more, but that's not really his game. He's not a burner that's going to outrun guys, especially at the next level. So he's going to have to play from the pocket. I don't quite have a comp for him just yet. I'm still trying to figure out exactly who he is, but I'm trying to think of a passer who could throw the deep ball, but a little bit inconsistent, but not as mobile, not as athletic. Maybe closer to kind of what we've seen from Trey Lance. Now, again, different. They look different, and they played in totally different offenses in college. But just in the sense of what their inconsistencies are and their level of athleticism, which they got to play a little bit more as pocket quarterbacks at the NFL level because they're not running away from guys. There's a little bit more of that in him. And then you just see how he can progress from there.
Yeah, I think, and again, I did this count back in the summer. I don't think that he's lived up to that to this point this year. But when he is on and when he was on last year, that's exactly what I saw. Ryan Tracy, Joe Burrow to C.J. Stroud. Agree with Eric?
You know, I actually like the deep ball comparison. I think is right. I think Stroud's a little bit better, I think, across the middle. When you think back to last year's bowl game and how much he had to work between the hashes, that actually takes me back towards Burrow as well. But athletically, I disagree. I know that he's not a running quarterback, Stroud is, but he seems very much a markedly better athlete than Burrow, in my estimation. I think if he has to go get those yards, if he has to scramble for a first down to move the chains, I feel more confident in him doing that at the college level and the NFL level, to tell you the truth, than I am in Burrow. So for me, that makes a little bit of a delineation.
All right. We'll see how I did with one of my favorite players in this draft, Jalen Carter from Georgia. We'll discuss his comp next, but I want to talk to you about BetOnline.net. It is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Anything you're looking for. And it doesn't matter the sport. Look, we just finished Major League Baseball season. That's over. But college basketball just began on Monday. You can get down on some action? Absolutely. You can get down on NBA action. You can get down on MMA, golf, whatever you're looking for. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football, baseball, soccer, esports. Now listen, esports, you got no experts here, but if you have people that are into esports, I would imagine it's an emerging market. You got it at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts like ours, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, guys, Jalen Carter made his name. We talked about him earlier in the week. A big game against Tennessee, 2 forced fumbles, had a big sack that almost turned into a safety. It did turn into a touchdown. 6'5", 310 pounds, an absolute game wrecker on the interior. I think he's the best defensive line prospect on the inside, and there's some good ones. Brian Brzee from out of Clemson, very, very good. Siaki Ika from Baylor, big dude on the inside, but I think Carter's the best. And the comp I came to, I see twice a year. And I think I may have said this the other day. Ryan, you had a chance to see him against your team on Sunday night, and that is Titans defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons. That's why I comped to Jalen Carter. How close did I get?
I think he nailed it, because it's not even the explosiveness. It's the smooth power that he's able to deliver. It doesn't look like it's not the old hump move where he's got to gather his leverage, get up underneath somebody's pads. It's smooth. It's in it, and he's in a gap. And I think that's really the key to not only Carter's game, but Simmons as well. And I think Carter is, I think when you take a look at him outside of his pads, he's a guy that's still got a lot of physical maturing that he has left to go. He's got upside physically. I think that's going to be really exciting when he gets to the next level.
Eric Crocker, Jalen Carter is Jeffrey Simmons. Thoughts?
I kind of like him as a guy I had the pleasure of being on the team with before. And he goes by the name of former 2013 season Defensive Rookie of the Year, Sheldon Richardson. He was kind of a guy who wasn't this big nose tackle, right? He was kind of this tweener, 6'3", around 300 pounds, but he was cat quick, super athletic. And he would just do some things on film, and I'd watch him in practice and just be like, wow, like that's that's just different. The way he's able to move, it almost looked like he kind of teleported. And when you see big guys that kind of have feet like a dancing bear, that kind of reminds me of Jalen Carter a little bit. He has some of that to his game as well. We saw flashes of that in the game against Tennessee. Saw his sack where he reached out, got that big paw on that ball, knocked it out of the hand, and still kind of a weird way that whole play played out. But anyways, you see a lot of the ability, and when I watched Sheldon Richardson, I saw that same thing. So he kind of reminds me of Sheldon a little bit.
I like it. That Sheldon Richardson was one of my favorite. He was one of my favorite players. Another player, and I don't know, Eric, if he was there, but I could see this other one. Now, I think this guy was a little bit leaner and a little bit more athletic overall. Muhammad Wilkerson. I think
Big
he was
Mo.
a little bit lighter.
He was actually my locker neighbor.
Yeah. And I think he was a
I
little
was in
leaner.
Between Muhammad Wilkerson and Quentin Coples.
Well, they had to keep you in line, of course.
Yeah.
Wilkerson he's a little lighter than Carter. I think Carter is eventually going to be a little thicker. I think Carter's going to play at 315, 320 in the league, whereas Mo was 300, but it was a lean 300, man. There's no question about that. All right, let's get to some fly boys here. Let's go running backs. Bijan Robinson, University of Texas. Now, we've seen Bijan do pretty much anything he wants on a football field. He's been dynamic in his 3 years at Texas. He's shown toughness. He's got a different gear. His change of direction, his vision, it's outstanding. 6 foot, 214 pounds. I had a couple of guys in mind for this one. Of course, one of his favorite players, and the reason why he wears number 5 is Reggie Bush. That's a tough comparison, especially for me, because Reggie was one of my favorite players of all time. So I came to this comp. Now, I do think that Bijan is going to run better at the combine, have long speed, better than the comp that I'm about to give you. But I don't know that I've seen once he's got to the NFL, Dalvin Cook of the Minnesota Vikings get caught by too many guys from behind. Bijan Robinson's comp is Dalvin Cook of the Vikings. Ryan Tracy, your thoughts?
I like that. Squared behind his pads. I can see the similarities. Obviously, the hand usage in the passing game works there. I do think I agree with you. Not only does he have long speed, I think he accelerates a little bit better once he makes the turn and he's looking at Yak. Dalvin, I think, hits the hole a little bit harder myself. But I think either way, you can see the similarities in their all-around games pretty well. Just got to see what Bijan can do in the pass pro aspect of his game.
That's the $64 million question for RBs, no question. Eric Crocker, Bijan Robinson to Dalvin Cook. Your thoughts?
I'm actually going to go throwback again. I've been going in the past with some of these players here. But running back that played for Chicago Bears, Matt Forte. And Matt Forte was this guy that was a bigger back. He had nice elusiveness. Obviously, I think when you think of Matt Forte, he was a really good dual pass-catching running back. I think, as Bijan gets to the NFL, they'll probably utilize him a little bit more in the backfield, but just that ability to kind of make guys miss, but be that bigger back that know how to run with power when need be. Right, a little bit of Forte. And Forte in his prime for Chicago. He was a really good running back during that time.
He was one of the more underrated ones, and obviously Lovie Smith is in our building, and Lovie spoke very, very highly of Matt Forte and what he brought to the Chicago Bears. The one thing about Forte I always remember is smooth. He was so smooth, and I get that from Bijan as well. I think Bijan's probably a little more powerful, but I think Matt Forte was a little bit bigger. Okay, let's do wide receiver
James,
here.
That's another one.
Edge, good one. Very good. Let's do a wide receiver here. This guy we've talked about a little bit. I know Ryan Tracy doesn't like talking about him. It's okay. Did start off the year well, but by the time he got to Lawrence, Kansas, Quentin Johnston really started making a name for himself. Now, he's a state triple jump medalist. He had put on a dunk show in high school. This guy's an absolute freak show of an athlete. I don't think his comp is that. However, there are some similarities, I think, to both, because it's hard to find a guy 6'4", 212 like Johnston is that runs in the 4.3 range. The one I came up with for Quentin Johnston of TCU was Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. Now, like I said, I think Johnston is faster, but I do see some similarities body-wise, hands, catch point. I'm going T. Higgins for Quentin Johnston. Eric Crocker, your thought?
The first guy that comes to my mind is Tyrell Williams, that long receiver, played for the San Diego Chargers, now Los Angeles Chargers. But taller guy, long frame, long speed, could play outside, move around a little bit. Never was like, the wide receiver one for a team, but ended up leaving in free agency and making a little bit of money. Tyrell Williams, that's kind of my comp for Johnston.
All right, Ryan, Quentin Johnston.
I think he's faster than the guy that I have thought, particularly when he was decimating my Jayhawks. But it was about the toughness, the upper body. Like, I think he's got that wide receiver skinny leg syndrome, but he widens up out top. He can go up. He's strong at the catch point enough to get it done. And this is not to compare him to what he does route running wise, because I don't think Johnson is there. But when I look at him, the guy that popped in my head was Nuke, and the way that he carries his length about him. I think I see similarities there.
Yeah, the one other guy that I thought of, but I think Johnston is a much smoother, fluid, twitchier athlete, is Kelvin Benjamin. Kelvin was just kind of long and not real, didn't have great change of direction. First of all, Kelvin, I don't know that he liked football that much, but you could see kind of the body type, a similar body type with Kelvin Benjamin, but Johnston's so much twitchier and faster than Kelvin ever was. And I don't think you'll ever take Johnston and go, oh, yeah, he should be a tight end. But at some point, Kelvin Benjamin seemingly ate his way into, I think, being a tight end at some point. So I don't know, but very good, man. I like this. We're going to do this for a few other comps. I got them for the Harris 100, so I got all kinds of them. I got Joey Porter Jr. with Sauce Gardner. I got Jordan Addison with Jahan Dotson. Devin A-Chain I compared to Reggie Bush. Will Levis I compared to the entire Titans quarterback room, Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill. So we got a lot to talk about with comps later on through draft season. We'll have plenty more right here on Locked On NFL Draft. And we appreciate you making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Day podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Gentlemen, that was fun. I think we need to do that again. I really liked the old school answers from the youngest guy on this podcast, Eric Crocker. Nice job. Ryan Tracy, you were excellent. I will try harder next time. You've been listening to Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.